Welcome back everyone to another ESO build video. Today it's going to be the update to the Toxicity build, the Stamina Dragonknight for the Markarth DLC. This is my main character. Yes, of course I'm demonstrating it on the PTS, but on my main live server, PS4 EU, this is actually the one I've used ever since I started the game. Of course I started on PC initially, and I play on all servers, but this is my main one overall. So if you want to see how I play the game, and how I achieve all the stuff I achieve on my main character, this is probably for you. Now, this is for single target mostly, but it can perform in AoE, but it can be used in all content. And not only that, I'm going to even show you what I used to get every single achievement in Vateshran Arena, or Vateshran Hollows, whichever you want to call it. But if you want to see more of this, stay tuned, it's all going to be explained.
How did you do that? How did you do that?
So, of course, first of all, the juicy stuff. We are going to go into the stats. We'll make sure everything is running. We are on 9.7k max magicka, 15.9k max health, almost 16k there, and 30.8k max stamina. It looks fairly low on the surface, but we get buffs and bonuses that all add up after time when we start getting into combat. But essentially, that's what you're looking at. 4.2k weapon damage, which actually goes up way over 6k if you're buffed and all that good stuff, and 14.4k spell resistance with 11.2k almost physical resistance. We have quite a lot of recovery actually, 15.5.1 for recovery, and our mag and health recovery do actually have a nice little bonus there as well, because we're not technically a vampire. I do tend to go with stage 1 for the sneak passive, but you don't have to if you don't want to. Remember, this is how I play this. If you want to change stuff, it's entirely up to you, but you will get different results. All points into stamina. If you're feeling squishy, sure, you can put some points into health. Bear in mind what you're going to lose. You will lose flat stamina, which means you will lose flat damage. We're using the Shadow Munderstone, although the Thief did get very, very close. There's only about 1k in it, so if you preference the Thief, that's absolutely fine. But for this, I'm using the Shadow. And we're using Artem Takeaway Broth. Of course, with it being my main character, I'm going to use the shiniest stuff I can get. But if you don't have access to that, or you'd prefer something else, you can, of course, use Dubious Command Throne, which is a purple variation of this. It's a bit weaker and doesn't have health recovery, but if you are in an optimized situation, I don't mean the only way to play, because that's bullshit. There's not only one way to play. I mean, if you're in a situation where you've got lots and lots and lots of very important buffs and bonuses to your sustain, and an abundance of synergies as well, maybe you've got loads of stam return from certain sets and bonuses from your group, then of course you can use something else which does actually put your damage higher and gives you more survivability as well. Now, what you've got is this, this, and this. These three different foods here are all exactly the same. Double stat food, max health and max stamina. This will give you the most out of your damage if you can sustain it. That's why I said Artem Takeaway Broth pretty much all the time, unless of course your group is ready for it. If you're in pugs, you want the recovery stuff. If not, if you're in a very, very comfy situation, you can use this. If you've got people using Master Staves, they're using perhaps Symphony of Blades, or the, what's it called? The spider one. I can never pronounce it. It's a Dwemer one. Sneeze really loud with an R at the beginning. I'm sure you'll pronounce it correctly. But anyway, there's a monster set there with a spider that gives you stamina. There's lots of different ways to get stamina back within your group, as well as taking synergies and heavy attacks. If you can sustain it, this will be better for you. Again, it's entirely up to you. So, 2 bonuses, 2 different food types, your choice. One has recovery, one doesn't. One has more damage, the other doesn't. So I'm going to go into the skills, I'm going to explain where they come from, how to morph them, what they do, and how they're effective to the build. This will be glazed over in comparison to some of the other videos, because this is quite an advanced video, and instead of going over everything in stupidly high detail for those of you that have no clue, I'm going to assume that most of you, if you're aiming for the harder content, know most of this already. Although I'm fully aware there's not much in the way of content out there explaining skills. Most of it's just slap this stuff on and hit stuff. I'm going to go over that a little bit, but I'm going to go into the skills now, and this will start making sense for those of you that are concerned, because there's lots of different ways to play, and this is just how I play. So, starting with the skills. Venom Claw, first of all, Venomous Claw, Ardent Flame skill line. Second one you unlock starts off as Searing Strike, morph it to Venomous Claw, because that one's the stamina morph. Damage over time, poison damage for 14 seconds. Hit it once for the direct hit, and then obviously it will attach the dot. Let it run for its full duration if you can. If you override it, it's not the end of the world, but try not to spam this, because this is not a spammable. The longer it lasts, the more damage it does. So, obviously, you want to get the most out of it. If you apply this as well, you are guaranteed a poison status effect, which is a single target damage over time poison effect, basically, for 6 seconds. Very, very strong, comes with the skill. and it will line up with one of our passives, which we'll come to after the skills. This must be on the target 100% of the time. Again, don't spam it, but if you put it on the target before it's actually run out, around 10 or 12 seconds is okay. If you start applying this every 6 seconds, you're failing hard. Pay attention to how the skill works. Don't let it run out. Next is Beast Trap, or Barb Trap. Always call it Beast Trap. What can you do? Fighter's Guild skill line, last ability to unlock. Starts off as Trap Beast. Morph it to Barb Trap. Put this under the target. It will do physical damage to them over 18 seconds. So you've got 14 seconds here, 18 seconds here. Quite long durated. This one doesn't get stronger over time. So if you do overlap it, it's not any change whatsoever. In fact, a little bit stronger because you do get the initial hit again. However, during its uptime, you get minor force. Crit damage increased by 10%. Happy days. Don't let that run out. Next is Soul Trap, morphed into Consuming Trap. This is a magic costing skill, but it's a skill that scales off of your highest resource. And you get this skill, starting with the original morph, from the beginning of the game. The first version of this costs no skill points. You just need 1 skill point to morph it. This skill is incredibly important, especially if you're trying to sustain, because with this being scaled off our highest resource, this will scale off of our stamina, meaning it will do physical damage, not magic. So it's a stupidly strong single target damage over time ability, much like this is a very strong single target damage over time ability, and is this. Now, what this will do is this will attach itself to the target and do damage for 10 seconds, and when it runs out, obviously you want to have it reapplied again. But if any target that you put this skill on dies, you will gain back 20% of every single resource bar. That's a heal, that's magic back, and stamina back. So while there it says you get back a 3.2k heal almost a 2k max magic back, and almost 6.1k, almost 6.2 in fact if you want to round up, stamina back, which is bloody nuts, with buffs and bonuses of course. If your resource pools are higher, then that will be higher. It's 20%. Buffs do count. Now, how do you utilize this? Keep it on the target at all times. Don't let it run out. But if the target dies, so if there's 3 targets around you right now and you've got enough magicka to use this 3 times, put it on each one. Kill them all that resource back 3 times. This I used a lot in Vateshran, and that is how I survive without using... Let's say no spoilers. We'll come to that later, but this is very important. Next up is Rapid Strikes. This is essential for our build. If you do not have this skill, you are doing it wrong. This particular build requires this because of our weapon choices. We'll come to that later. Sure, you know what that means already if you've been playing long enough, but this is required. Now, this will stab the target rapidly, and then at the end of the channel, after 0.6 seconds, it will hit really, really hard with a big one at the end. If you move too far away, if you block, or if you move in a different direction or whatever, if you lose the target basically, you will not connect with the last hit and you won't get the extra damage. Each hit does do more damage in quick succession, yes, up to 5 stabs, but the last one is the big one that really counts. You need that to connect. If that doesn't connect, your weapons won't proc and you won't do the extra damage for the overall build, which is very, very important. Dual wield starts off as flurry, morph it to rapid strikes. Now, if you are struggling in content and you die too much, first of all, don't stand it stupid. I'm joking. Maybe there's too much going on. Maybe your healers are dead a lot. Maybe you just find that you're a bit squishy. You can change the morph. You can change this to Bloodthirst instead, which instead of doing more damage per hit, and then the big one at the end, it will be consistent damage per hit with a big hit at the end, but you will heal for 60% of the damage done. So that can actually keep you alive. The more stabs you do, the more heals you get. Choice is yours, but you must have this skill in either morph, regardless. Next is Rendon Slashes. Starts off as Twin Slashes, morph it to Rendon. Same applies with this one. Single target damage over time. Oh, by the way, this counts as single target damage over time also. It's just active rather than something that kind of just sits there. You do have to apply this over and over and over. Now, this needs to be reapplied when it runs out, sure, but it lasts 10 seconds. It does physical damage. It's a bleed as well, so it can go under damage shields, but this will do initial damage as well. Ignore the snare, that's not that important. The other morph of this, I would recommend for most players, because the only difference out of the damage is the initial hit is a small percentage lower. That's it. However, you will heal every 2 seconds while this is running. So this can be changed to a healing version, this can be changed to a healing version, and the damage difference between the two, if you change them both to heals, is minimal. It's very, very small, and some people won't even notice it. So if you want more survival, change the morphs. If you're fine with them, keep them as they are. Flawless Dawnbreakers on the front bar, just purely for passives. You only want to use it in emergency situations anyway, because it's quite cheap. You want to use expensive ultimates if you can. This does damage over time and does a big hit initially, yes. But if you activate it, it will give you 300 weapon damage for 20 seconds. I only use this in 3 situations. Quick fights, especially if they're undead, Daedra, or werewolf, because you hit them harder and you can get ultimate back for them, and it's great. We'll get to the passives later. If I'm about to die and I don't have enough of my back bar ultimate, or if the boss is about to die and I'm not going to be able to build an ultimate before he's dead, in which case I'll use this instead. So 3 situations. The rest of the time, just leave it there for passives. Passives are coming up later. This is a flex slot. Molten Whip, first of all, is from the Ardent Flame skill line. It is the first ability to unlock. Starts off as Lava Whip, morph it to Molten Whip. You do not activate this ability. This has a passive bonus, so ignore all that stuff there. It's all junk. We don't need it. Just read the part at the bottom. When you use Ardent Flame abilities, while on this bar, each time you use one, you will gain 75 weapon and spell damage. It can stack up to 3 times, so 3 skills. So, for example, if we skip ahead a little bit, this skill here, this one here, and our ultimate. That's 3 skills, that's 3 procs of 75 for 5 seconds, and it will carry over if we swap bars. So that's just a nice weapon damage boost while we're activating our rotation on the back to give us an extra kick on the front. Doesn't have to be there, however. If you don't like they're there and you don't trust your healers enough, that's fine, most people don't. Then, of course, you can go into the Assault skill line and you can get Vigor. I would recommend Echoing Vigor because that will heal your group members as well. And yes, they stack. Lots of different situations, including in my All About Mechanics videos, where I teach people to stack in a certain manner, where I tell all the people who are using Vigor to all stack them at the same time. And you can get like 3 or 4 of these at once, and it helps stupidly in really hard content. However, that's just a preference for me. Also, in solo content, I like to use this. Yes, the heal is lower than the other version, but it's extended duration-wise, so I don't have to spam it so much. You just have to be a little bit more careful. And if you're using the healing versions of these anyway, you're fine. You can fill the gap with these and have more sustain, because you don't have to use this so often. Again, the choice is yours. You can use the other morph if you want. So you can put that there instead. Or, the final option is in the Fighters Guild skill line. You can, of course, if it's a standstill fight, get Circle of Protection and morph it to Ring of Preservation. Now, whilst inside of this for 8 seconds, you will get minor protection, you get minor endurance, and so will your group. The stamina recovery got boosted, actually. Minor endurance used to be 10%, and now it's 20%. And at the same time, of course, you'll heal everyone for best part of nearly 600 health every 0.5 seconds. So rapid heals, but that can crit and get really, really strong as well. Now, major endurance has been altered also. That's in our potions. We'll go to that real quick. So this here used to be 20%, but as you can see here, it's 40%. Our stamina recovery is massive. So that went up a little bit. Anyway, let's go back to the skills. So, Poison Injection is next. This is very, very important. This is the last one you unlock in the bow skill line. Starts off as Poison Arrow, morph it to Poison Injection. This does damage over time. Again, single target damage over time. This is what Dragonknights excel at. And while this is running, while the enemy's health goes down, if they go below 50%, the lower they go, the more damage it does. So this is kind of a slow-paced execute skill. Keep it running all the time, but it does get stronger. Does initial damage as well. Noxus Breath, of course, is from the Ardent Flame skill line. This is under Venomous Claw. Third ability to unlock. Starts off as Fiery Breath, morph it to Noxus for the physical or stamina version of it, if you like. It does poison damage in area of effect. You basically breathe poison. And it does initial damage as well in AoE. Now, this also applies Major Breach, which, if you aren't familiar with the patch notes, has been changed. It used to be Major Fracture. Fracture was physical, Breach was spell. Now it's a combined buff. It reduces the physical and spell resistance of any target by 5948. It used to be 5280, and now it's 5948, so it's gone up, it's buffed. This will affect 6 targets. Now the initial hit can hit more than that, but the overall debuff will actually hit 6. Again, aim this at the target, make sure it hits as many as you possibly can. Debuff is there, everyone hits harder including you, but don't let it run out. You can overlap it if you want, that's actually a plus because you'll still continue with the damage output, but you'll get an extra initial hit, but don't spam it. Take advantage of all of these durations, and that is how our rotation is set up as well. Everything will run flawlessly and you won't have to change a thing. Now, Flames of Oblivion is in the Ardent Flame skill line. Starts off as Inferno, morph it to Flames of Oblivion. This will fire a fireball to up to 2 targets, your closest 2, including the one in front of you, obviously, the one you're hitting. And it will do fire damage. Just bear in mind, of course, for us, technically this went up. If we are solo before, with Major Fracture, this wouldn't get boosted, because this is done using magical type damage, because it's fire. Now that this does breach overall and does spell resistance as well, this can actually hit a bit harder because now we've got spell penetration and physical penetration at the same time. Regardless, this is scaled off your highest resources, so this will be stronger depending on which pool is higher. For us, it's our stamina. If you were higher in mag, it would scale off of that. Now, this does give you Major Prophecy, increasing your spell crit and your weapon crit while it's on the bar, but we're going to have weapon crit in our potion anyway. And this will fire for 15 seconds. So you fire it once, and every 5 seconds, it'll fire 2 fireballs again and again and again and again. Bear in mind, if it's 1 target, it's 1 fireball. If it's 2 targets, it's 2. Keep this up all the time. This is a physical ability scaling off of your max stat, costing magicka. So this one here and this one here both do that, but they both do not affect our stamina pool, which really helps for us to sustain, because while this one gives juice back, and they both scale off of our highest resources, we're not nuking our stam pool in order to use 2 very effective and strong skills. Now, while Endless Hail or Arrow Barrage is entirely up to you depending on the situation, I would highly recommend this one instead of the other one, because when you're firing your back bar glyph, Arrow Barrage is much shorter and can sometimes run off before you really want it to. You can reapply it, but you're on wind up now for the skill and your glyph is not doing anything. Whereas this one, 1 or 2 ticks did tend to overlap ever so slightly occasionally, which allowed us to have 100% uptime on that glyph, not sort of 92 to 96, sometimes 98 if you're really lucky. You could fully guarantee it if you kept up your rotation. So this worked out better. Do not let this run out. Now, obviously that starts off as volley. If I ever say volley, I mean this skill. The morph choice is yours. Finally, Standard of Might. This is our main ultimate. You want to use this pretty much all the time. This starts off as Dragonknight Standard, morph it to Standard of Might. While using this, anyone inside of the circle of flames will take fire damage every 1 second for 20 seconds. And you will apply Major Defile to them, reducing their healing received and health recovered by 16%. And while standing inside of it, you will take 15% less damage and do 15% more damage to all targets that you hit as long as you're standing in the area. Even long-range targets, you can still hit them really hard as long as your feet are in this circle. There's also a synergy attached to it, which other people can take, and they can pin enemies to the banner. This is incredibly strong. Yes, it's very expensive, but that is actually to our benefit. So what you need to do is you need to put this down during your rotation, not before. If you put it down before, the time is ticking, 20 seconds has already started, and now you've got to reply yourself. If you already have your rotation in full swing and then drop it, all the damage you are already doing gets boosted instantly, and then you just continue from there. It's about efficiency. Use this during your rotation, not to start your rotation. Now, passives, very importantly. We are going to have to go over these because some people don't understand them. Increases the damage of your burn and poison status effects. We are using a banner, which is fire. We are using Venom Claw, and we're using poisons on our weapon, actually. And we're also using poison, as in Noxus Breath here. We've got these abilities here, so we do need to take advantage of this, because if we apply poison status effects, this one's actually guaranteed to do so, you will get back 500 stamina. There's your sustain, and that's every time you reapply a new poison status effect. Don't forget poison injection can do that as well. So that's going to help us just by luck, of course, plus those status effects are stronger for us. Also, if you apply Burning, you get magic back, which means you can utilize your Flames of Oblivion or your Soul Trap even more. When you deal direct damage with Ardent Flame ability, you reduce the enemy's movement speed. That's not massively important, but get it anyway if you want it. This increases the damage over time of Fiery Breath, Searing Strike, and Dragonknight Standard abilities. Now, this is Searing Strike, morph to Venomous Core. That does affect it. This is also affected, and of course so is our banner. So they will be needed. You have to get that passive there. This increases the flame damage in area of effect from your flame area of effect skills, which is our banner. And it also decreases the cost of all stamina poison abilities. So Venom Claw, Poison Injection, and Noxus Breath are all cheaper. As you can see, they are only 1.8k stam, 1.4, and 1.5. Very, very cheap, while utilizing magic abilities that do physical at the same time as gaining back loads of stamina for doing poison status effects. Sustain is not that hard, and if it is, you do a heavy attack. This is quite important. Get this, we'll go over that later. But this will reduce, or increase in fact, the damage you can block, so you can take a bigger hit. So make sure you get that, but you've got to be blocking obviously. While a Draconic Power ability is active, your healing received is increased. So if you are using a resistance buff for any reason, while it's active, you get healing received bonus. And that does apply to your Bloodthirst or your Blood Craze if you do change your dual wield abilities to those morphs. And other heals you get from other people, of course. Increase your health recovery. That's not that important because we don't necessarily have them on the bar that we're using actively. We don't now, and we probably won't later, but just in case, of course, you might want to get that. However, you are going to want this skill regardless of the top part. Because even if you're not using a skill, you will still increase all melee range attacks by 2 meters. Melee range attacks are 5 meters. Yes, so for those of you using Noble Duelist out there that need to be in melee range in order to apply it, and you're wondering why it doesn't proc, you need to be within 5 meters. Anyway, the DK has 7 meters. So light attack, heavy attack with dual wield or sword and board or anything like that, or our abilities here. So if we say Venomous Claw, Rapid Strikes, or Rend and Slashes, as you can see here, they're all 7 meters. Not 5. So that's a really important skill because it allows you to kind of stand back a bit. You don't have to be up the enemy's nose. Increases your spell resistance. DK flat out has higher spell resistance. Earthen Heart is incredibly important. We're not technically using any of these, although I would recommend unlocking this skill and just keeping it there for later. If you're in real trouble and your pugs are struggling, or just in general you just want more survival, you can dump the banner for this. No, you won't get as much damage, but it is a no shit button and it basically makes you go God mode. Increase the duration of Earthen Heart abilities. That's for this. Make sure you get that. You're going to use it at some point. When you cast an ultimate, for every single point the ultimate costs, you get 46 of everything back. The more expensive the ultimate, the better. That's why this, as one of the 3 options, is an oh shit button. Because if you haven't got enough for your back bar, you can fire this and get stuff back, and it will help you survive. Failing that, use it on the banner. Because if you go through a rotation, get to half stamina, for example, and then pop the banner, you'll fill up to full. But if you pop the banner straight away with full resources and then start steaming through your rotation, that's very, very inefficient for your resource return or resource management. Use your stamina, use your magicka, use your health, whatever. Use your resources, then fill it up and continue. That's much, much more kind of active playstyle than most classes when it comes to ultimate usage, but make sure you've used stuff first, then claim it back. When you use an Earthen Heart ability, you and your group get Minor Brutality for 20 seconds, increasing your weapon damage. It's an important passive to get, especially if you're using stuff like Igneous Shields, maybe, if you're using that, which you might do in Maelstrom or something like that, or you might even be using Molten Armaments for your group. There's lots of choices here as to what you could use in some situations, so get the passive anyway, but we're not actively utilizing this on our particular setup. I generally run alongside a DK tank anyway, so all they have to do is hit Igneous Shields and I've got this. But if you want this passive, sure, get it, and you will get ultimate each time you use one of these skills. Technically in VMA, I do actually use this, because then I can activate it, get a shield, and heal more. That will give me this passive. And when you cast a non-stamina Earthen Heart ability, you get 990 stamina back. So if, again, you are solo and you're using this, you will get stuff back for casting something else. Again, these are not massively essential for this particular build, but it's nice to have the options just in case. But this one, of course, above all, is. If you had to get anything here, just one, and you only had 2 skill points, get Battle Roar. You're going to need it. Dual Wield is very important. Get every single one of them. If the enemies are below 25% health, you will do more damage with your Dual Wield abilities, including your light and heavy attacks. And if you have this passive, your offhand does more damage, because it generally doesn't. This will reduce the stamina cost of your abilities. This will give you a bonus to disorient or basically CC targets. And this will give you a bonus depending on the weapons you've chosen. We are using 1 axe and 1 dagger, so we have a crit bonus and we have a bleed chance, which is very important because that is a single target damage over time ability. We need those, and that's what we're full of. Single target, single target, single target, single target, single target. Technically single target, although it's got a little bit of AoE in there. Same with this as well, that applies to 2 different rules there. And of course, poison injection. The only AoE we've really got, if you don't consider the burst and dot from this, is volley. This does actually count as single target for the initial target. The rest of it is just bonus stuff. So, one more thing you can do is you can swap to Whirling Blades. This is your executing area of effect. Only use it if the enemies are very, very low. Below 50% is when this starts doing more damage, but as you can see, this passive here is below 25%. So if you want to get the most out of it, get them down to 25 and then start spamming this. This can be replaced with this, if you choose to. If that happens, you need to use 2 rapid strikes at the end of your rotation instead of 1. We'll come to that in a moment. That is a very viable option, but you will have to alter your rotation. So it's not just put it there and have it there all the time just in case. I mean, you can do. If you're single target all the time, you want this. If you're not single target all the time, you might want this. Again, when we get to the rotation, that'll make more sense. We're not using any light armor. None at all. Don't bother with those. Medium, we're technically using 7. You are going to want a heavy for later. So if you're using 1 heavy piece, which we're not right now, you want these top 3 passives. They will give you health, and they will give you health recovery, resources back, and resist. That's not important now, but make sure you get those for later. This is very important because we are technically right now using 7 medium because we have no other choice because the gear we're using only comes in medium. Every single one of these are important. They will help towards your sustain, for dodge roll cost, movement speed, weapon damage if you have 5 pieces, which we have 7, sneak reduction to cost, reduction to sneak detection size, of course stam recovery, stam reduction to cost, crit chance as well. These are very important. Get all of them. So magic, we don't actually need any passive there. Fighter's Guild is very important. This is on our front bar, as is Beast Trap. And also Ring of Preservation could go on the back if you liked. Every single skill from Fighter's Guild that you have on your bar will give you a bonus. They will give you 3% extra weapon damage. We have 2 on the front bar, so we have a 6% bonus. If you're not using the whip and you prefer to have circle protection down instead of having this weapon damage carry over to the front bar for a short period of time, you can just have the 3% extra while you're on the back, which is quite a handy gap filler if you like. You will want Intimidating Presence to reduce the cost of Fighters Guild abilities by 15%, so your Beast Trap is cheaper. And you will definitely want this, which will give you 9 ultimate for every undead, Daedra, or werewolf that you kill. Don't forget, if you kill them, you want to make sure that they've got a soul trap lingering on their body so you can get the resources back. And of course, Fighters Guild abilities do more damage to undead, Daedra, or werewolf. So your Beast Trap, and if you need to, your Dawnbreaker. Undaunted is very important. This is stupidly powerful, and people ignore it too much. Take every single synergy you can get. Every single synergy will benefit you. They'll give you resources back. They'll heal you. They'll give you a shield. They'll give you damage output. They'll give you something. If you take a synergy, you are guaranteed to get back 4% of your overall resource pool every single time, no matter what the synergy is. Take them all. If a tank is screaming, I need resources, for crying out loud, it's not going to be long before a bubble's will be passing your way, or someone could just simply throw a spear at you. There's no shame in asking for a resource synergy if there aren't any around. But sitting there and not taking them is stupid. If you're not allowed to take the synergies, you have no right to hit that dummy and keep taking that spear off him. Just saying. And we have 1 armor type on right now, so we get 1 benefit. Every single type of armor you wear, light, medium, or heavy, will give you a 2% bonus, so a maximum of 6. We're using 1 type, we get a 2% across the board resource gain for everything. Orc is the chosen race, of course he is. Max stamina, max health, 600 heal once every 4 seconds from weapon abilities, and we are very, very fast with a high weapon damage increase. Now, also reduce the cost of sprint. We're wicked quick, we hit hard and we heal. This is a weapon ability. This is a weapon ability. Surprise, surprise, so is Whirling Blades. Volley is a weapon ability. Poison Injection is a weapon ability. Any of these abilities you use, including your light and heavy attacks from either bar, can heal you once every 4 seconds. Yes, that considers healing received. Yes, it considers healing done. And yes, that can crit. You can choose any race you like, but just be aware there will be a difference in your overall performance based on the passives you gain or lose. So you might want to jiggle your stats a little bit if you choose to use something else. Fill in that, or haul away. Now, medicinal use is the most important passive in the game. 30% increase to the duration of potions. That means that our potions last 47 seconds and the cooldown is 45. That's right, we are 2 seconds over, which means we can have them up 100% of the time. We're using weapon pots, which give us brutality, savagery, and endurance. Make sure you do not ever let your potions run out. If it goes grey, you can't use it, it's running. If it goes solid colour, hit it, make it go grey again. They're consumable buffs. If you let your buffs run out, you're doing it wrong. Or maybe you just mistimed it, but don't let them run out if you can help it. Anyone that puts a potion on when you're nearly out of juice is doing it completely wrong. You need to keep them up as much as possible. And during that time, just to maintain your resources if you are struggling, fill the gap occasionally with a heavy attack if you have to. Heavy attacks are resource gain as well. If something's off balance, you better be heavy attacking it because you are going to get so much back and you won't have to sit there at 3k stamina wondering, should I dodge roll or should I hit the boss? Because one of them is going to kill you. Make sure you keep your potions up, keep your resources up as well. Not just from passive, but actively. Now, gear. This is where the interesting stuff starts. We are using, surprise, surprise, and if you've watched the Infused build, the non-Infused build, or this one, Toxicity, it's the same character throughout the last 4 years. He just had a couple name changes. VMA weapons, dagger and axe. You can have the regular versions if you like. You can get them from normal difficulty. But if you can get the perfected ones, you do get a weapon damage increase on the front bar. 103 weapon damage, in fact. Now, when you deal damage with Flurry, aka Rapid Strikes, your single target damage over time abilities within 4 seconds, so activated after the stab, will have their damage increased as though they have effectively 1,690 extra spell and weapon damage added to the skill on top of what you already have. So it won't show in your stats, but it will show on the damage being done by the skills. Now, all you have to do is basically Rapid Strikes, skill, and when it runs out, Rapid Strikes again, and any other skills that you haven't fired already. Keep that up. Your dots will always be stronger. Massive, massive boost to single target damage, and this is what we are built for. Look. There's your Rapid Strikes, so stab that, and you've got single target, single target, single target, single target, single target again with poison injection. You've got bloody loads of it. This boosts pretty much everything you do, and the DK excels at this. So make sure you have these on your front bar. Nirnhoned and Sharpened, Dagger and Axe, doesn't matter which order they're in, as long as Nirnhoned is a trait you have chosen for the main hand, because the offhand is weaker. Nirnhoned and Sharpened. Poisons on the front bar as well, double dot poisons. Way too strong. Each tick can give you a poison status effect if you're very, very lucky. Plus it's just a stupid amount of damage, and they're single target damage over time, and they're also boosted by the weapon. Master's Perfected Bow on the back, you can get the regular one from normal, don't panic. But if you do have the Master's one, that also gives you 103 weapon damage. So both bars, you still have the same weapon damage without fail, because they're both exactly the same bonus. You cannot lose out on it. Now, if you apply Poison Injection to the target, this will go on multiple targets as well, but you have to put it on each one. That target not only effectively has 1,690 spell and weapon damage added to its damage over time ability intake, but it also increases the damage by those skills and everything else you're doing on that target by a further 330 weapon damage. So you can see there's a crap ton of weapon damage already on our build, but we're also stacking extra invisible bonuses that affect the skills and or target. So it's very important to keep up your poison injection. Make sure you Rapid Strikes before your single target abilities. The combination of the two is incredible. Now, you will need, obviously you can get these on normal, you will need to obviously complement this with other stuff. So we're using Deadly. Weapon damage, weapon crit, weapon damage. Again, very nice stats. And increases all of your physical, bleed, poison, and disease, damage over time, and channeled abilities by 20%. That doesn't say single target. That just says damage over time. So while this boosts all the damage to the target, this increases all single target damage over time. So they double dip. And this triples up on it, because damage over time, again, even the banner is, volley is, breath is, poison injection is, all of it is. Our entire build is damage over time. So, whereas most builds have maybe a couple of skills or some main skills for it, everything we're using is damage over time and boosted by all three weapons combined. And furthermore, we are using Reliquin. You don't have to have Perfected, you can get this on normal as well. The whole build can be acquired on normal. There's just extra bonuses if you have the Perfected ones. If you have Perfected here, you have an extra 1k stamina. If you don't, you don't. It's as simple as that. This has 2 crit bonuses, which is really nice. Minor Slayer increase in your damage output by 5% in dungeons, trials, and arenas. And your light and heavy attacks apply stacks of damage, which lasts for 5 seconds, unless you do another light attack within a second or longer, and it will start the timer again. Each wind will stack and stack and stack up to 10. This used to be 20 a while back, now it's 10, which means the initial burst rate of this is actually much, much higher. The damage is a little bit less than it was to start with, but it has still performed extremely well. It's a very, very strong set if you can keep up your light and heavy attacks. If you cannot keep up one light attack at least every 5-second duration, then you've got 2 options. Practice or take it off. Very simple. As harsh as it may be, if you can't keep up your light attacks at least once every 5 seconds, you are not going to be effective with this set, and it is useless to you, which means that 5-piece bonus is doing no damage, and you're wasting potential damage you could find elsewhere. In which case, put on Aegis Caller. This isn't quite as strong as the Reliquin stacks, but it is initial burst. It does start ticking at max duration straight away. It does give you a nice recovery bonus, and this is area of effect as well. So if you can't keep this up, you're going to be really effective with this. Both very good options, by the way. Now, Reliquin is on the body, Deadly is on the jewelry and the head and shoulders, but you can have this in any order you like. But the jewelry needs to be 3 bloodthirsty and all weapon damage bonuses combined. Now, for Vateshran Hollows, what do you think I used? I had lots and lots and lots of runs. Some really good, some really bad. Lots of different combinations of potential builds, if you like, and this is what topped out for me. So, VO was quite nice for sustain, but stupidly flat for damage. There was no damage bonus on the 5th piece. Reliquin was great for single target, but dumped really badly with loads and loads of ads because there's just no AoE. And with us being a single target based setup, there wasn't much AoE anyway. So I compromised and went through loads of different things and found what was for me the better setup. And this is insane. And this is what I got every single achievement in Vateshran with. So, Maelstrom, Dagger and Axe, just the same. 900 and sharpened. Perfected Master's Bow or Maelstrom. Your choice. Master's was really good for bosses and quite good for trash. VMA was really good for trash and not that good for bosses. Your choice. Poisons, of course. Now, this is all mostly single target, but we've got volley, of course. 1 Krag, so you've got physical penetration bonus all the time. Took Reliquin off. Replaced it with Aegis Caller. Because this does AoE damage to all targets every single second. It's a bleed, it goes under damage shield as well. Very, very effective. All you need to do is melee damage. So you stack everything, hit one target, and this will spin and do its work for you while you're keeping up your dots on a main target, and your AoE will do the rest. 3 trial pieces of a stamina set of your choice. VO or Reliquin doesn't have to be perfected at all because you don't even use the rest of the bonuses. You just need 3 pieces anywhere on the body so you can get the minor slayer bonus and the crit. Now, the jewelry is, of course, Aegis Caller, so that we can have the 5-piece set. So, Krag, 5 Aegis, 3 VO or Reli, Masters or Maelstrom on the back, Maelstrom on the front, and Ring of the Pale Order. Yes, of course, I tried VO and Briar and all that kind of stuff. For some classes, it might be great, but for this one, it was not. Didn't work out that nice at all. This, however, was nuts. This ring will heal you for 18% of the damage done, and healing received and healing done does improve that. Now, why is this so strong? I have no idea how this got through to live. It shouldn't have done because it's too powerful. But on most builds that do spammable attacks, it's kind of light attack, skill, heal, 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 heal. It's quite well paced, isn't it? Well, not for us. Us is damage every 1 second, damage every 1 second, damage every 1 second, again, 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 again. Any of these skills constantly ticking over. Every single target affected by volley or breath, and every single target affected by any of these skills, if you put it on multiple targets, will consistently heal you for every 1 tick they do. So if you have 6 skills running, they all do damage over time every 1 second. It's not 6 heals every 1 second. They're all staggered, so it's literally heal, 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 constantly. Just literally flooding of heals. It's ridiculous. And of course, this you want to morph to Bloodthirsty, because this will actually heal you at the last stab alongside Ring of the Pale Order. It's disgusting. You can stand in the enemy's face and just stab and stab and stab and stab. Get this on as many targets as you possibly can, because you'll get resources back. There's basically your built-in VO, and you want to use Corrosive Armor until you get really good at it, and then you can switch to your banner instead. Now, I'm not going to go over the tutorial of the place as such. I'm going to make another video for that. I'll even demonstrate with this character, but that is what I used. So, Corrosive or Banner, depending on how comfortable you are. Hardened Armor to give you that resistance bonus, which you're going to need. And it gives you a damage shield, which you can heal from underneath. Plus, they'll take damage if they hit you. And the rest of the time, everything else is the same. The gear is obviously different, very specific to the setup, but it's very, very strong. And just to give you a quick underlined demonstration. And then what you're looking at here is a heal. So if you hit that, yes, of course, I've got a heal there. If I hit this, I've got a heal. All I have to do is light attacks, and I'm going to heal all the time. But check this out. If it's light attack and then a skill, and then light attack and then a skill, looks quite nice. Watch this. Dot, 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 dot. Let's do some rotations. Now look at the heals flooding in. Look at that. You're not going down. That's without even Beast Trap running, without an ultimate running. So instead of light attack hit, and just getting the odd ones in now and again, absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, let's get into champion points for the main purpose of the build, not the Vateshran stuff. Vateshran, you're going to want the Lava Munda Stone and a lot more pen. We're going to go over how the overall build is for. The rest of that is up to you. So, for content. And what I say for content is because all my builds are made for content. I don't have a dummy rotation and a dummy setup. I have this setup that you have all the time, and you go into content with it. That's it. 72 points into Ironclad to reduce the amount of direct damage you take. 64 in Hardy, 64 in Elemental, and 51 in Thick Skin to increase your survival, if you like, versus all other damage types. Plus, you've got Unchained. If you do need to break free, make sure you use a stamina ability quite quickly, because it'll be cheaper. Don't be scared to heavy attack, though. 19 points in Quick Recovery to increase your healing received, and you've got the Res passive, so if you are resurrecting someone, you will take less damage. Make sure you've got a dot on someone if you happen to be using the Pale Order Ring. For example, maybe you don't have a healer, God knows what, because then you'll still heal while you're resing them. 44 into Warlord to reduce the cost of break free. 75 points into Tenacity to increase the amount you get back from heavy attacks. Make sure you heavy attack if you have this champion point node filled up. I've seen people put points in here, go, yeah, I've got loads for heavy attacks, and they never heavy attack. Don't put points into something if you're not going to use it. Use your heavies. 75 points into Mooncalf to increase your stam recovery. 72 in Dodge Roll to reduce the cost of that. 4 points left into Shadow Ward, of course, to reduce the cost of block by 1%, not 1.97, because that doesn't count. Only counts on full decimals. Full points, not the decimals, sorry. And, of course, 75 points here unlocks the Treasure Hunter passive. We've got a sticker book now. We want to get all our loot. This will give you higher quality loot from chests, and sometimes you can get 2 items at a time. Nothing in here. 16 points into Physical Weapons Expert and 44 into Master at Arms. Yes, this was tested extensively. This is very, very nice for this particular build. Your build might have something completely different, but this is mine and this is how it works. 44 points into here increases all your direct damage. We do have direct damage in terms of our initial hits from our skills and our lights and heavies. Alongside of our lights and heavies are our lights and heavies. So these stack up against each other very, very nicely. When I get to the rotation, you're actually going to see that our light attacks are the highest part of our overall DPS. 72 points into Thaumaturge to increase all of our damage over time, which is insane. 61 into Precise Strikes to increase all of the damage we do from all critical hits. And 21 into Piercing. We do not need any more than this if you are in content with all the shiny buffs and bonuses. 56 in a Mighty, by the way, to improve everything we do. Why is this? Because if you have an infused Torux Pack Crusher, you're looking at 2740. If you have Alkosh, you're looking at 3010. If you're looking at Major Fracture, it's 5948. Minor Fracture is 2974, up from 1320 because that got buffed. Sharpened is just over 1.6k, and I think that'll about do it. I mean, you've got Tremor Scale if you really want. If you get that in your group, you can dump these completely and put them all into Master at Arms, but we've got cap already. We can hit 18200, no problem, with only 21 points into here. Again, if you're solo, put loads more points into here. You can take them out of some of this, and you can go into Lava Munda Stone. That's if you're doing Vateshran, of course. If you're not, then stick to this all the time, and you will be just fine. We do have the Exploiter passive, of course, giving us more damage to off balance targets. Make sure you heavy attack as well. And, of course, if we go low health, we get more resources for our ultimate. We actually generate it faster, which is quite nice. Now, rotation. Now, we're going to make sure we get the proper gear on, so we're going to skip this bit real quick. Now, this is going to be quite straightforward. Static rotations is something I introduced to my channel very, very, very long time ago when everyone was shouting dynamic rotations, and I gave you a very static rotation for Sting, the Nightblade, because I wanted to make things easier for people instead of making things really, really complicated. Complex in the sense that you could have a huge sheet of paper with a massive combo list on it, and if you don't get it right, that target dummy doesn't look good. If you do get it right, it looks great. But that's only for the dummy. That's useless. It doesn't teach you how to do a rotation in combat. I'm going to show you how to use something that is static, that you're going to keep up 100% of the time, and you can't fail it. So, Beast Trap down first of all. Make sure, of course, if you can help it, that you've already got Flames of Oblivion running, as long as you're not already in combat, because it won't aggro anything. As you can see, it doesn't hit shit. So, have these two running. Put that down, volley straight away. So cast that at the target's feet. Light attack, Poison Injection. Light attack, Breath, swap bars. The reason the breath is on the back is because when you activate it, it actually does the initial hit on the front bar if you're quick enough. Your beast trap swap and your breath swap needs to be quick. So light beast swap, breath swap. Get used to that. Practice it if you have to. Now, when you get on the front, it's rapid strikes with a light attack. So light, rapid. Light, venom claw. Light, soul trap. Light attack, rend and slashes. Now, if you did that properly, so light rapids, light venom, light soul trap, light rend, your buff at the bottom there, you'll see it again, looks like rapid strikes, but it's brown. That goes to 0, but all 3 single target damage over time abilities are active, including your potions or poisons even, before that runs out. Now you want to empower your beast trap and your poison injection. So what do? After you've done those 3, light rapids, light beast trap swap. Your buff is still running. Start again. So let's start from the beginning. Beast trap swap. Volley, light, poison, light, breath, swap is how you start. But you need to weave in your Flames of Oblivion after your first rotation. So let's just say, for example, we're already through it. Beast, volley, light poison, light flames, light breath, swap. Light rapids, light venom, light soul trap, light rending, light rapids, light beast swap, light volley, light poison, light flames, light breath, swap. Like rapids, like volley, like soul, like rending, rapids, like beast, swap over and over and over and over. You never ever have to change that. The only time you might want to change it is occasionally if you're running a bit low, maybe you're sitting around 60, maybe 50% stamina. Instead of doing light rapids, you can just do a heavy rapids. And that will give you a little bit of juice back once every rotation if you really, really have to. So to recap again, it's going to look like this. Make sure you've got your stuff running. Beast trap, volley, light, poison, light, flames, light, breath, swap. Venom, soul trap, render, buff your maelstrom weapons. Light beast trap swap, light volley, poison injection from your maelstrom weapon buff, flames, breath, swap. Rapids, venom, soul, render. Rapids, beast trap, volley, poison, flame, breath, rapids, venom, soul, render. You get the idea. Round and round and round and round and round. It's going to be on a website, obviously, but that never has to change. And yes, I know people want to see what passing is. Well, I'll tell you what, passing isn't actually what people think it is. People think it's a screenshot of a DPS test. No, it's not. It's a breakdown of the entire thing. Let's have some of that. So as you saw, they're very, very static, no cheesing with stuff, no trying to figure out some very, very complicated combos just to wiggle some numbers. We just went straight out static. As you can see, the highest damage we did was actually our light attack damage, followed by Reliquin. Again, if you can't keep up your light attacks, which we can there, your light attack damage is going to go down, Reliquin's going to go down, it's not worth using. Rapids is our main source of damage, which is why our two major buffs or dots are stronger. The last one that is actually lower is the one that is the less effective of them all, which is why we swap that for Whirling Blades in AoE situations. And as you can see there, Twin Blade and Blunt actually gets boosted quite a lot, as does Poison Injection by the Maelstrom weapons. So they are very, very beneficial across the board. Noxus Breath isn't too bad, but if you want, you can swap that out for Caltrops. But you can see we've got a really high uptime on Poison status effects as well, which helps towards our sustain. No cheesy buffs added, although the dummy's actually quite broken at the moment and I wouldn't show them anyway. But still, you can see that is why it is built that way. Again, if you're not very effective with your light attacks, Reliquin's not going to be very good for you. You're going to want to swap that out for Aegis Caller. And we're not breaking any pen rules either because we're efficient as hell. Now we want to get into fashion. Now this character looks very, very close to what the character should look like, but it's not quite right. Because I do show this on the PTS, this doesn't have the mask that I actually use. So if you want to see what I really use, we're now going to go over to my main server where you can actually see what I actually have. And here we go. And here he is, Mr. Megaface himself. This is my actual main character on the live server. None of that PTS crap, that we can actually see what he's really wearing. So time for fashion officially. So we are using, the helmet's useless because we'll go over that in a minute, but he is using a Fang Lair Jack, medium by the way, heavy Dramafra shoulders, medium Dramafra hands, heavy Dramafra belt, heavy Thieves Guild legs, those are the combat looking ones, and they're light, medium actually, Dramafra boots. Now we're using Troll King axes, which come from the pack actually in the Crown Store, but we might get the Opal one soon when it comes to the Undaunted. I have to check the website on elderscrollsonline.com to be very sure about which ones we're getting, but it comes from those types of events. And also we've got the Troll King bow as well, so they have a nice green glow to them, which makes them look absolutely mega. Now the mask that you've all been asking for, I know. By the way, the colours we're using are all void pitch, but the mask we're using for this character is here. Go into your appearance, go into hats, and this is very, very rare. This was only in the game once or twice maybe. But keep an eye out for the crown crates, because there was a specific one prior to Halloween a couple years ago where this came in. It's called the Death Grin Mask Skull. If you see that appear again in the crown crates, get your gems ready because you're going to want it. That's the only way to get it. Other than that, use whatever you like. Put a nice hoodie on him or something. Anyway, hopefully that helped. Hopefully that wasn't too boring. Hopefully you now have a better understanding of how to approach this particular build. This is very advanced, but the rotation is very static, so anyone technically can pick it up, but it's going to take you a bit of practice to be able to survive with it. Failing that, of course, if you're going into Vateshran, I did already go over that, but there is an all-about mechanics guide coming for that very, very soon. Best of luck in there if you're trying to get that stuff done. So, first of all, thank you all very much for watching. I hugely appreciate the support. If you are not subscribing on YouTube already, please do hit that button. It is free. Furthermore, if you want to help support outside the channel, there are some links in the info section for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, and of course the website xynodegaming.com. Should be an Instagram link there somewhere as well. And of course I do live stream on Twitch every single night except Wednesdays, unless I say otherwise on Twitter. Maybe I'm recording or something. At about 10 PM UK time. Sometimes I'm a couple minutes late, depends what's going on in the house. But 10 PM UK time on Twitch. Once again, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.